Hello viewers, back again to our session on the promotion of mental health. Our today's topic is developing good communication skill. You all know that communication is very important in our life. Good communication helps us live a healthy life. It can make impossible things possible. Unless our words, the meaning of our words, reach the other person the way we intend, the communication is not successful. It is often said that a successful leader is an effective communicator. Unless the speech of a leader is received by the audience in the same way as intended by the leader cannot become successful. People will not accept him. A person who does not have a good communication skill often finds the situation very difficult. An easy situation becomes difficult for him to cope with. And on the contrary, a difficult situation can be made easy or simple by a good communicator. There are millions of people around us who cannot express themselves properly, who suffer from the lack of good communication skill, and that poses a hazard in their everyday life. In verbal communication, words are 7% effective, the tone of the voice is 38% effective, and non-verbal clues are 55% effective. When we say something verbally, we hardly ever notice that we are sending a number of non-verbal clues, even when we are communicating verbally. And this unawareness of sending the non-verbal clues makes things difficult. That means what we are saying verbally may be just opposite of what non-verbal clues we are sending. Non-verbal clues means the facial changes that you make, touch, nodding the head, keeping space between the speaker and the person being spoken to. These are non-verbal clues, or your different kinds of gestures and postures. Now, in our gestures and postures, there are negative signals and positive signals as well. Now, you are saying something positive, but your body language says something negative. Suppose a visitor has come to your home, you are talking to him, and suddenly you looked at the wall clock. Now, this bodily gesture, the way you look at the wall clock, may send a message to the visitor that you are no longer able to spend time with him. And the man may immediately pack up, which you didn't at all intend, right? So, I hope you have got my point that what we say may be just the contrary of what body language we send. A good communicator has a magic wand in hand. He can make impossible things possible only through communication, communicating skillfully, effectively. Now, since there are many people who lack the skill of communication, it is important to find ways to develop this skill. How to develop the skill of communication or interaction? There are a number of ways. First, while communicating, we have to know what I am communicating and why. What I am saying and why. That means the content of my communication should be clear to me. And then why I am trying to say these things to the other person. Unless these two things are clear to myself, clear to the speaker, there is every possibility that the communication will fail. And if the communication fails, there is a big space for miscommunication, misunderstanding, and conflict. It should be clear to you what outcome you want and what impression do you want to create on the person, on the listener. This is important. And while communicating, while interacting, you should keep in mind 3 or 4 very important things: the gender, the age, the customs, etc. Secondly, how to say what you are saying, your mode of delivery, your way of talking, your bodily stance, all these count heavily while you are communicating. You should have a friendly tone, a polite, non-adversarial. A message carries different meanings in different modes. It depends a lot on the tone of your voice and whether you are having an eye contact with the person who is listening to you. If you look the other way to speak at a person, the person will not accept it very positively. It's good to have an eye contact that develops a friendly atmosphere while speaking. Good posture and friendly stance often makes a situation quite easy. So, while speaking, you have to keep in mind your body language. Your way of talking should be in such a way that your body will give the impression that you are saying something with interest and in a friendly way, politely. That friendliness and politeness will be expressed through your words and your body language. So these two things should be in harmony while talking to a person. Thirdly, listening. A good communicator should be a good listener too. We should remember that interaction or communication is a two-way traffic. You are at the same time the speaker and the listener. So when you are not speaking, you are listening to another person, you should be a patient listener. If you interrupt while the other person is speaking to you, the communication fails. The person has the impression that you are not interested in listening. You can interrupt with questions which will suggest that you are listening to the person. That means your questions will come from the words that you are listening to. Your questions should be based on what you are listening to. Otherwise, if you interrupt the person who is speaking to you with some questions that is not related to the topic, then the communication will immediately fail. So, listening patiently is very important in communication. And lastly, there is a possibility that your words are not received in the same way as you intend to. That means there may be a difference of opinion between the speaker and the listener. Even in that case, you can reach the agreement that you agree to differ. What I want to mean is that there should be a sense of respect in the communication between the two persons. Even if I disagree with the other person's views, I can express my disagreement with respect, politeness, and friendliness. Otherwise, it results in a fight, a quarrel, and the communication cannot go ahead the way it is expected to. Now, before coming to the end of this discussion, it is important to give some tips on better communication. First is, we should try to develop our vocabulary, our stock of language. The better our stock of language is, our stock of words is, the better communicator we become. Then we should be a good listener. We should practice listening patiently. Thirdly, we should learn to understand and appreciate others' points of view, because it is absurd to think that only my point of view is all. Others' viewpoints are unimportant and useless. We should have room for accommodating others' perspectives and viewpoints. It is also necessary not to communicate in an emotionally charged moment. If you try to communicate when you are emotionally charged, there is every possibility that you will lose track and your communication will be disastrous. It often happens when we are involved in an altercation with others. So it is better to keep quiet while we are emotionally very much charged. Let us be cool first, because in a cool head we can think properly, act properly. Lastly, you can become a good communicator if you join an association or an organization where you get to know a number of people, new people, different types of people around, and it gives you an opportunity to communicate with them. We all would do well to remember that polite approach is the key word of good communication. So friends, up to this today, we'll come back with new ideas, new topics on mental health in the coming days.